Okay, this is good chart, bad chart. We're gonna close out the week with a little bit of good news, which means starting off with the bad chart. I saw this tweeted out by Matt Brunig. Over the last 30 years, the top 1% has added $21 trillion to their wealth, while the bottom 50% has lost $900 billion. I think we should clap for capitalism in America. No,
I'd rather have the clap.
It's complex.
And see that fact bear out in real life.
That's absurd. Like
things that were bearing out got me the clap.
Like we could, I know that there's no way that you could change from one world to this hypothetical world that I'm gonna sketch out, but like you could do the entire cost to remake the American like energy production sector to account for climate change. And the rich still would be as rich as they were 30 years ago if you did not transfer that wealth. I know it's a ridiculous comparison.
I feel like the rich should have, sorry, it's what?
I think that looking at that, I think it was Anon on Twitter was like every presidential candidate should have to say, what do you make of this and what would you do or would you not do to address that sort of trend going forward?
Right. I think that the super rich should have some kind of number where they admit that is really bad for them to have more money than that. Just from a stability.
Do you think we've reached that?
This looks like a trend over time, and if the trend continues, the bottom will have nothing.
Yes,
more nothing than they have, and it will become a untenable situation, as it has over and over throughout history. They need to do something about it.
Yeah,
there needs to be at least some kind of pressure release valve.
The thing that bothers me is that I spend time on Twitter, I shouldn't. And so I see the people who, anytime I post anything about socialism, whatever, they're always like, that's how you die. You need economic freedom through capitalism. But like, that's capitalism working. That's not like, oh no, the gears have run off the capitalism machine. It's like when you get capitalism and you allow it to spend unlimited amounts on politics, this is the result. But like we keep cutting taxes and cutting taxes, literally over those 30 years, that wealth is going to be transferred. That's what each individual tax cut is intended to achieve. And over the course of 30 years, that's what you get.
Let's do the next good chart and then I'll say why these are both bad charts.
They're both bad charts. Okay, well in that case, we're gonna move to the good chart, at least from my point of view. We don't have to agree necessarily. So this one's going back just a little bit, but it is polling from in February on what younger generations think about capitalism and socialism. Are they scared of socialism? Well, on individual policies, if you bring this up, you're gonna see that compared to the rest of the population, they're a little bit more likely to think that the government should provide universal health care, significantly more likely to think the government should provide tuition-free college, a big chunk on preferring to live in a socialist country, which is sort of giving away the game there. Supporting abolishing ICE really doesn't have anything to do with socialism or whatever, but things like high earnings result of free enterprise, they are not as likely to believe that. It's pretty close, but they are questioning some of the economic orthodoxy that our system has lived on.
It seems like the youth of America are the only ones fully capable of understanding an argument about socialism versus capitalism divorced from Cold War legacy hatred.
Okay.
And that's it. It's everyone that I see over and over again, even if it is, including Bernie and CNN, it's just this idea of using, not actually including Bernie, but when you say socialism, it automatically departs from any philosophical conversation into a legacy Cold War socialism versus capitalism argument that is less based on those economic and political systems and more based on whose side were we on back then. And that's frustrating to call.
And you're saying the young people are not as wrapped up in that.
They're not wrapped up. They're just like, oh, I read about socialism and I'm applying that definition to the countries that have what that definition seems to be, like in Europe, and they seem to pay less for healthcare and get better results. And I'm just saying, like, that's my definition of socialism, how it bears out. But then you have the right that uses the word socialism as a cudgel to say it's responsible for millions and jillions of death. And my response to that is no. It's corruption that's responsible for the millions and millions of death from dictators who used the banner of socialism to become fascist dictators. And that's the problem. And that's why I say it's the corruption in capitalism It's the corruption in a system that we have now, which is largely capitalistic, that allows people who, once they get over a certain level of wealth, to use their monetary influence to corrupt a system. The same way in these socialist countries throughout the ages that they say are so corrupt, then the party apparatus has gotten so much power that the people within it at the top have used that system's leeway to facilitate corruption to corrupt the system and turn it into a brutal, like, state media. And again, that feels super fascist, propagandic dictatorship.
Yeah, we don't have a ton of time to break down like different theories of political economy and things like that. But people act as if the money itself is an independent variable for political calculations, when, as you point out, it is not. It is not just a force multiplier for making more money independent of politics. It allows you to use politics to make more money. The bigger problem overall, and I would agree, and I think this is an issue for a country, is that when people use the term socialism or capitalism or communism or fascism, any term basically, almost nobody knows at all what they're talking about. And that seems like a big problem. They talk about socialism, they talk about capitalism, not understanding that our economy is already a melding of different concepts in various points and over time. And so I feel like we should start to have deep dives into what words mean, I think. Because Donald Trump called Nancy Pelosi a fascist for saying that he's engaged in a cover-up. I don't even know what connection that has to the particular political economic construct that is fascism historically. But people use these terms because they feel like they can win arguments just by throwing the term out.
But like Bernie called Trump a corporate socialist in a speech meant to make socialism sound more palatable.
Well, I think what he is trying to say is that there are different versions of socialism. I think he's sort of saying what I'm saying. We already have socialism in some forms. One form of it is the particular type of corporate socialism that people like Donald Trump like.
And again,
and a lot of Democrats.
Well, not again for the first time. I haven't listened to all of Bernie's speech, but I will say that I think the winning strategy is to say, I don't care what you call anything. I hate corruption. And I think that every time we can have some kind of means by which to check corrupting powers, we should do that, period.
Yes, I think the system desperately needs a correction. I would go beyond just checking the corruption, but I think that's long overdue. And the nepotism, by the way, at least in the administration we've got right now. Here on the Damage Report, we talk a lot about the big banks and their ways of getting rich off the poor. They saturate the market, but there are other options. And I've got info on a socially and environmentally responsible financial institution that has no ATM fees, gives you cash back on every purchase. They even commit 10% of their earnings to charity. It's called Aspiration, and if you go to aspiration.com/TYT to sign up, you'll get these perks, and that's more money to spend or to save or to spend. Just treat yourself.